Now you got me checking my stats.
He's got done 2.5 million in the last 30 days. He's about to verify. He's checking his stats right now. Watch Me Amazon, absolute legend in the space, has been on the Gary V show. Is that what we call it? The Gary V podcast, whatever. You were on there like 7 years ago or 6 years ago.
Time flies when you're having fun, man.
You said what?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. I met you shortly after that at Reezy's event in New York, and Gary V was supposed to show up to that, but he like ghosted Reezy for some reason. But anyway, okay. I got to hang out with you, Reezy. Amazon Lit was there. That's where I met all y'all in person for the first time. So welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast.
Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast. Hear the stories of Amazon sellers crushing it in the game and keep up with the latest strategies that are working. Sit back, relax, and remember, if you truly try and work really hard, you will make a ridiculous amount of money selling on Amazon.
The production value here is top notch, man. I love it.
Yeah. That's
all right. Let's get the record straight. I'm at about 6 million year to date.
Okay. Oh, nice. So that's like 3 million. And it's February.
That's like 3 million for the month, and it's a slow month, but we're up 16% year to date. I don't know if you'll see that, but it's one of the accounts right here.
Heck yeah.
And then I have another one on my desktop.
Just click that manage inventory and start scrolling for us. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm pumped at Taylor because Taylor's been doing wholesale the last year. He thinks he's a shit now because he's selling so much, and I wanted to humble him by bringing on the real king.
No, he is the shit. You know, going from 4 million to 5 million, or from 5 million to 6 million. Honestly, even though that's a big number, it's not as impressive as someone who is starting out in their first year, going from 0 to 1 million, going from 500,000 to 2 million. That's like the hardest hurdle.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to explain to my fiance today. I was, because I'm hitting some hurdles like Avery was saying. And I'm like, honestly, I don't think anything's going to feel different or better than the first 10 sales or like the first 50,000. And it's like the profit, at least this is my experience, like the profit gets bigger, but it's like the emotion, it's like, okay, like we kind of expected this to happen.
Yep.
But what was some of the biggest hurdles for you, Larry? I mean, you're in what, you're like 7 or even more now?
No, so I started I'm on like year 13, 14. I started in 2011. And it was the Wild West back then.
Yeah.
And this business, as you know, is a business that's full of hurdles. So I can't say that there is any one specific. I remember like when I first started, I used to work for someone else, and then they cut me in on the business and they gave me a revenue share. And I went from literally being broke and in debt to working with one of my high school friends, getting a revenue share where he put up all the funds and all of that kind of stuff for the business. And I was making a lot of money, and cleared up all my debt, was finally starting to make money for the first time in a while. And then, one thing led to another, and he kind of screwed me over, and it was back to square one. And having gone from a really shitty place to broke to turning that all around and having a good business, and then getting fucked over by someone who I thought was a close friend, that was a pretty big hurdle. And then I had to rebuild, and I didn't really have lots of capital at that time to rebuild. So that was a hurdle. A couple of years ago, we had a big hurdle with my UK European business. I know a lot of people who've been following me for quite a while know that I got my start actually doing FBA in Europe before I was doing anything here in the States. I would say that it was like about 75, maybe 80% of my total business was UK. And that all completely reversed since COVID. My UK business, for lack of a better term, kind of went to shit. It's a shell of what it used to be back then due to like extenuating circumstances of operating a business in Europe. So I would say from 2020, right during that COVID time, I kind of had to reevaluate things, rebuild, change a lot of shit around. And, I guess when you're in this business, that's just something you're going to have to deal with every year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is.
Wow. Dan, that must have been a hard experience, like someone screwing you over, especially someone you considered a best friend. Did that make you like rethink like how you view like business relationships and like who you partner with?
For sure. For sure.
Damn. Yeah.
For sure. This was, they always say like, don't do business with friends or family. That's like the old adage, the old saying. I don't support that saying because, my current partners in my current businesses are best friends that I've had like since life. And I feel that if you're working with the right friend, with the right family member, only good things can come. I'm not like so pessimistic on all of that, but I guess there is some truth to it. And yeah, man, I did get fucked over, but you rebuild. I am forever grateful to this individual because he put me onto the business. When I came to work for him, it wasn't to do Amazon. He had a optical store and he was selling like eyewear and shit like that on eBay online. And I was hired just to be like a customer service rep for him, working a regular 9 to 5, $500 a week, whatever it was. And then at the time he was doing Amazon FBA. He put me onto it. He said, you know what? I'm doing the US. I'm very busy here. Why don't we start a UK business? I'll put up all the funds. I'll give you the basic gist of how it works. You figure out everything else on your own. And then we'll split the profit 3 ways, a third going to you. So he blessed me. He put me onto the business. He taught me.
How much funds, what are we talking starting out? Like how much did he help you with that?
So he wasn't helping me. It was just he had funds to fund his own business because at the end of the day, it was still his own business. I wasn't an owner. I didn't own any equity of the business. I wasn't on the papers or anything like that. It was kind of like a weird structure, but the way we had it structured was at the end of every month, we would sit down, we would print out all the sales, how much there was in revenue, figure out the net profit, and then he would cut me a check for a third of the profits. And what I think happened, because we built like selling in the UK back then, it was like the fucking Wild West. It was like an unheard of situation. And within the course of a year, we probably built that business up from nothing to like a multi 7-figure business. And honestly, I just think he did not like the fact that every month I would come into his office when the business started rolling and be like, all right, you owe me 50 grand. You owe me 40 grand, cut me a check for 60 grand. He was probably like, fuck that. He started playing games and shit. So
damn,
in our separate ways, I had to rebuild. I wasn't really privy to how much money he put into the business initially because he was running all of that stuff. I was just I was making the purchase orders and giving it to him. And I wasn't limited by capital. I would just find whatever worked, sent it to him, and he took care of all of that stuff.
Wow. That's really cool. I think that's really cool that you have that experience, Larry. I feel like a lot of people get into Amazon, at least the people that we deal with, our past students and stuff, and especially the people that, are going to be at our event in March. A lot of people just coming from, maybe used to working 9 to 5 jobs, not having that much access to capital, maybe starting with only $1,000 or less. And I think one of the biggest fears people have is they're just scared to spend a little, like large amounts of money, where it sounds
they're not going to make it.
Yeah. And it sounds like you had this cool experience right out of the get where you're like, you got to have someone else's play money.
Well, it's easy to spend someone else's money because you don't have any skin in the game. Like, for example, this is a very unique partnership. So I don't want people to think that this is how like the business works, but I had really no skin in the game because I could place a purchase order. I could literally, not that I did that, but I can literally fuck up. I can drop the ball and I can make a purchase order that would cost us $500,000. But if we made 100,000 in profit, I would come into his office and I would be like, yo, give me my third of the loot. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not participating in the losses. I'm only participating in the profits. But yeah, I'm sure it was capital intensive, but at the end of the day, this person didn't really have to do much besides spend money. He literally was busy in the US business. He was a US FBA seller. He built up a really big business. And he's like, listen, you have this 9 to 5. I'll put up the funds. He had an optical store. He had a beauty salon. So we had access to a lot of distributors and brand owners from having these 2 brick and mortar stores. And he was like, in your spare time, do whatever you got to do to build up this business. And I was just working nights. I was working weekends. I had no place to be. I had no social life. It was at a time where I was just blinders on and like focusing like crazy. So I spent, a year, 2 years just working harder than I've ever worked in my life. And we built up something really special. And as unfortunately always happens in business, people tend to get greedy when money starts coming in. So it is what it is. But again, I'm grateful if the stars didn't align and I didn't go work for this guy when I did. Like I said, I didn't even know what Amazon FBA was at the time. So I have no idea where I would be, what I would be doing, any kind of stuff like that. So extremely grateful for the opportunity, but ultimately his loss, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's wild that the UK market was such an opportunity back then. I didn't even know that.
So let me tell you what the reason was for this amazing opportunity. So when you sell in the UK, you're selling stuff for pounds, for British pounds. At the time that I started, the conversion rate was about £1 gives you $1.75. And we were doing things like buying, and also the UK marketplace, it's a lot less competitive than it is here in the US. And we were literally doing shit like buying $5 bottles of shampoo and selling it for 20, 25 pounds, which when you do the conversion equates to $40, $45 or whatever that equation was. And it was like printing money, obviously, back then. But since then, the pound went to shit. It's almost at parity. The business, completely did like a 180. Obviously, when you're doing that kind of business model, you are greatly dependent on what the currency conversion is. But I mean, wild, wild West times where you can buy something for $5 and in essence sell it for 40 US bucks, and there was no competition, and you were like one of the only sellers on the listing. So it was just wild at the time.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this, Larry. What, you're absolutely, it's so cool to, I think I started following you a couple of years back. You got 2D BART workflow or whatever it is, your software. You got the your own Amazon business. You're clearly crushing it. You've been in the game for 13 years. Obviously, I'm sure you got a lot on your plate. What do you get out of coming to an event like the Miami Sellers Conference and having the opportunity to speak in front of, a few hundred people? What do you get out of that? Like, what do you get most excited about? Like,
can I be 100% real? I'm just excited to chill with you fellas. And, I don't do a lot of events. I don't particularly like public speaking. I have a course, I have a software. I promote it a little bit on my socials, but like I don't make a ton of content. I never run ads. I never do anything like that. I'm excited, honestly, about hanging out with you guys, drinking, chilling, and just shooting the shit and talking shop. That's the kind of stuff like that excites me. Like if we went out and we were just having this conversation casually while we're chilling and, that kind of mingling, that's the reason why I'm going. Like, I'm not going with a specific agenda because I want to promote my course or I want to promote 2D workflow. Like I told Romer that, like, that's not, I'm not there with an agenda. I don't want to make like a presentation selling myself or anything like that. I'm honestly just looking to chill, answer questions, provide value to all the people in attendance. And I for sure will do that. But yeah, man, that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
That's awesome. Yeah.
What's the last event you went to?
The last event that I went to, probably one of Reezy's events, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of events.
We're pulling you out of retirement.
Honestly, it's not that I'm in retirement, bro. I'm just going to, chill and have a good time. And I know I said that I was going to go to the last event and I didn't. So I'll be there this time and for sure we'll provide value and look forward to meeting everyone. I know a lot of people from my coaching course are going to be there as well. So looking forward to meeting everyone and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I'm just coming to chill.
Do you know, like in your course, I'm in your little private Facebook community. Do you know how many people have scaled to like 10 million a year? I know there's a couple in there at least.
How many people have scaled to 10 million a year? I don't know the exact number, but I know there is a few. But to keep it 100% real, I don't think that these people necessarily scaled to 10 million because of me. They might have been at 5 million and got to 10
million. You're just a leader along the way. You were like not necessarily all. I mean, nobody's success is all due to one person.
There's a couple of big dogs in there. I mean, there's, my buddy Anthony Connolly is in there. He does huge numbers. There's a couple of people actually from Europe who do like $6-7 million a month. There's a couple of big dogs. A couple of the scenarios, honestly, that I like. There is a ton of people in there. Not the guys that went from 3 million to 6 million or from 6 to 10, but there's a lot of people in there that went from nothing to now they're doing $1 million a year. Now they're doing 750. There's a couple of people who quit, who are pharmacists and quit their pharmacy jobs to build a wholesale business. And they've been grinding with me for the last 3-4 years, but they have a warehouse now. They have staff. They're doing a couple of $1 million. It's their full-time gig. That's the kind of stuff that like excites me more than just getting someone from 5 million to 10 million or whatever.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? What's like the action required to go from 1 million to like 5 or 10 million a year? Like what's the difference in those business models?
So I would say that it's not necessarily a difference in the business model. It is a difference in the person. It is a difference in the end user. So, there's this like saying, I don't know if it's a saying, but people say like 90% of people who start a new business fail. And I think it applies to whether you're opening up a restaurant or whatever business you're opening up, or if you're, going into Amazon and you're trying to make it full time, 90% of people are going to fail. And I don't think it's because you're opening up a restaurant or because you're doing Amazon or because FBA is saturated or whatever. I think it's because to be successful as an entrepreneur, you have to have what is called an entrepreneurial personality type. Not everyone is cut out to run their own business. Some people are cut out working a corporate gig. Some people are cut out being doctors, lawyers, and there's nothing wrong with having a career and making 6 figures that way. But it takes a special type of individual who is the type of individual who has the type of drive, who has the type of personality, who has the type of smarts required to succeed at an entrepreneur, whether it's Amazon, eBay, wholesale, private label, whatever. And those are the people who succeed and who actually make it. So, it doesn't matter if you're just not cut out to be an entrepreneur, if you don't have that entrepreneurial gene. Doesn't matter if you're in my course, honestly, if you're in someone else's course, it's just not for you. You're not an entrepreneur, and that's fine. But the people who have that, those are the people who are going to make it despite of a course. You know what I'm saying? Like Taylor would make it in spite of any course out there. Sure, I can give him some guidance and I can speed things up and I can help him get from A to Z in 1 year as opposed to 2 or 3 and remove a lot of those pain points. But ultimately, man, if you're a hustler and you're an entrepreneur, as long as you put the work and the time in, you're going to make it in this business. Yeah. And that's really what it takes. 80, 90% of people fail when they start a new business. I honestly think with Amazon, the numbers are a little less, meaning they're a little bit more favorable, not less, that you'll actually be successful. But still, at the end of the day, man, I see a ton of people start and they get one IP complaint on the front end, or they, don't make money their first 6 months, or things don't work out exactly how they thought or wish they would have, and they're out 6 to 8 months down the road. They're out. They can't hack it. They can't cut it anymore. Maybe they can't go. I didn't take a check from my business probably for the first year and a half. You have to be in a position to be able to do that, and you also have to be able to withstand the pressure of not taking a check, not paying yourself from your business for a year. And not everyone can do that, but the type of people that can, those are entrepreneurial personality types. And that's honestly what it takes more than anything to succeed in this business. That's the first thing. The second thing that it takes to succeed in this business and scale at a larger level is capital. You know what I'm saying? You can be the sickest entrepreneur out there. If you have 20 grand to your name, you cannot turn that into a $3 million a year business. It's just impossible. So at a certain point, you have to put more skin in the game. You have to come up with more capital. And I think that when you get to like 1 year in the business, like Taylor, like you mentioned that you're 1 year into wholesale, one of your main jobs right now should be, how do I come up with an extra $1 million, $2 million in capital to deploy that with my vendors? Like that needs to be like a full-time job, figuring out how to do it. Now, you don't have to take it out of your pocket, out of your personal bank account or whatever, but you need to figure out how to spend that money, because you've already gotten from 0 to, I don't know what your numbers are, but I know Romer said they're million or 7 figures plus, but to get to that next level, that's what you need.
Yeah. No, I definitely noticed that, like the significant jumps that I made in OA, like I just started out with $1,000 back in 2020. This is my 5th year now. I did 1.7 million last year. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I was able to hustle and get like 2 loans for 50K. And if I didn't get those, like, and able to roll the profits back in, like, that would not have happened, you know?
Let me ask you a question, real talk. If I was to say right now, I cut you a check for $1 million, do you have, not you're going to go out and find stuff to buy, but if I gave you $1 million like this week, do you have a list of products, of SKUs, quantities that you can buy today if I just gave you the funds to do it?
Probably for only like 200, maybe 250.
Right. So for 200, right. So the fact that you have 250 worth of shit that you can buy this week, but you're not doing it, that's the biggest negative aspect of your business right now. Because if you were to buy that 250 worth of shit, what are you going to make on 250 3 months later? You're going to make 50 grand, 60 grand on it. Conservatively, you're not making that because you're not figuring out how to get that 250. But if you were to come up with it somehow, some way, from me, from a loan, from a credit card, whatever, the fact that you have 250 worth of shit to buy and you don't buy it because you don't have the capital, that's the number one hole in your business that you need to plug.
I totally agree with that.
You know? And if you were to be honest and you'd be like, oh, you know, if I gave you $1 million or if I gave you 250, you don't have the stuff yet, but you would figure it out. You would tell your buyers to do this, that, and the other thing, then it's a little different. But the fact that you have stuff that you could buy right now, but you're just not buying it, just money on the table that you're just leaving there, bro. So it doesn't matter, you know, the credit cards, interest that you would pay, whatever. If you have the 250 worth of stuff to buy, your job as the owner of the business needs to be to figure out how to get that 250. Because even if I loaned it to you and you bought it and it came back as 300, and then 2 months later you paid me back the 250, that's an extra 50 in your pocket net. But because you're not doing that, you're losing out on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me, like I remember the first, you know, $10,000 loan I took, it was like, oh fuck, like, if something goes wrong, like I still have to pay this person money. Like I'm personally guaranteeing this loan. And then and now I just took a $50,000 loan from a friend, you know, and in the back of my mind, it's like you said, I know I could probably take 150, but it's like, fuck, if all my ASINs get, you know, authenticity complaints or some shit, like I still have that inventory now that I got to find some other way to offload it. So yeah, I think I totally agree though, Larry. Like, I think the next move for me is like, yeah, finding that 150, 200K loan for sure.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you didn't have the 250, like you have to go and run the numbers. But if you didn't have the 250 worth of stuff to buy right now, and then you go and take the loan anyway, because you're anticipating you will find it, that's a little more risky. But if you have the stuff right now, like forget about selling those products throughout the year. You can do one flip, pay back the 250, and whatever the profits are, even if they're 10%, you know, you're going to have an extra 15 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand net. Just keep doing that. And that's, you know, that's anyone who has a big 7-figure or an 8-figure business. The secret to all of that, it's not really so much of a secret, but the fuel to that fire is the capital. You eventually have to deploy a lot of capital to make a lot of money. And the reason why I like wholesale is, you mentioned that if all of your ASINs get an IP complaint, that stuff is incredibly, incredibly rare, even at a high level. I mean, you know, we have probably 1,500 active listings at any given time on Amazon, and they're not all going to get clipped. I'm not going super deep on all of these. We're buying like 60 to 120 days worth of each and every single product. And every single month, to like break down the numbers for you, you have 10 SKUs. 2, 3 of them are going to go to shit, whether someone kills the price, whether it's an IP complaint, whatever. Another 1 or 2 of them, they're going to go to shit, but you're not going to lose a lot. They're just going to be break even. But the other 5 or 6 are going to work out. And that's just what you got to keep flipping and spinning and going off of. So there's very unlikely that there's going to be a situation where if you took the 250 and you deployed it into 20, 30, 40 different SKUs, the risk is very, very minimal. If you put it into 1 or 2 products, different story. But almost impossible. Like, it's expected for every 10 SKUs you buy, you're going to lose 3, and then you're going to lose another 2 breaking even. But those 5 good ones, you're going to order them this time. You're going to order them again in 90 days. You're going to order them again in 90 days. And that's kind of like the blueprint to the business. Just keep juggling those 5. And at the same time, you're going to keep losing some, but throw another 10 new ones into the mix. Throw another 10 new ones into the mix. And you're going to lose another 3. You're going to lose another 2. Throw another 10 into the mix on top of that. Another 10 into the mix on top of that. It takes capital to do that.
That's on my 60-day goal card. Find 200K.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the shit to buy, you have to. You're giving it up. Even if it was crazy interest, bro, you just pay back the next month and you have an extra 50 grand.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. That's some facts. I appreciate that, Larry. Now, on the other side of that advice, what's the fastest way to find that other $750,000 worth of SKUs?
That is where you roll up your sleeves, and that's the part that is easier said than done. You have to have VAs, or you have to have buyers, or you have to have people constantly doing outreach for new suppliers, for new products, for new lists. Keep putting all of that into your ecosystem, so to speak, because like I said, for every 10 products you buy, if you only bought 10 products, 30 days later, 2 of them are going to shit. 2 of them are breaking even. You're left with 6. Another 30 days after that, out of the 6 that are left, 1 or 2 of them are going to shit. You're left with 4 that you're going to replenish. Another 30, 60 days after that, that 4 shrinks to 2. So it's literally, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. And you can break those numbers down with every 10 SKUs. So the way you got to do it, you got to constantly, because it's always going to shrink. It's always going to shrink and fucking constrict. So you always have to put another 10, another 10, another 10. So you always have to have someone full-time doing supplier research, supplier outreach, and adding new product lists and new vendors into your ecosystem. That's the only way that you can keep chucking the 10 new SKUs, so to speak, into the mix every 30 days.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely slowed down. I think with each level of, success, I think I've slowed down the outreach a little bit, because it's like, oh, wow, like I have all these products, but I think it's really helpful for me to hear your mindset, because you're obviously thinking that, like, that next level of, like, how can you get crazy numbers? Is there a certain, I guess my curiosity is, like, I absolutely love, like, not having to be so active in my business, like, all the time, working freaking 50 hours a week. Have you found, Larry, there's a certain threshold of revenue, or maybe there isn't? I'm just curious, in your experience doing,
it's tough to say, because I'm probably working less on my Amazon business now than I have in prior years. But I'm also, on the same token, I'm probably more busy now and working harder now than I ever had before, if that makes sense. So, once you take yourself out of, like, the nitty gritty and the day-to-day of the Amazon business, there's so many other things that are going to suck up your time, and, like, all of that kind of stuff. It's actually one of the reasons why I built 2D Workflow, because I was being pulled into the business where my warehouse needed me there to delegate work, to create shipments, to hand out assignments, to hand out labels. And, like, literally, like, I've said this a lot, like, there were times back in the day before 2D Workflow where I was afraid, if it wasn't for my partners, if we couldn't go on vacation at the same time, we both couldn't leave the country at the same time, or I couldn't leave the country at the same time. And if I did leave the country, and I'm sure a lot of people listening who have Amazon businesses and who take vacations can relate, the week before your vacation, you're fucking hustling, figuring out how to leave your staff work for the next week, because God forbid you're not there, the fucking wheels grind to a halt. So you need to be there physically all the time. And I built the software to be able to be kind of like my warehouse manager and do those assignments and do the delegating of the work and allow me to take a step back from it. So that was pretty dope.
Nice. Where's your favorite place to vacation?
Honestly, my wife doesn't like to fly long distances, so we typically tend to stay to the Caribbean. We're actually going the weekend after Miami. We're going to the Bahamas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're going to Japan.
Are you? That's I was just having a conversation with my wife already said she's never going to Japan. It's like a 20-hour flight. That's not ever happening. But ever since I was a kid, bro, I've always wanted to go to Japan. And crazy shout out. If you guys like Japan, there's a 666 show that came out yesterday called, or the other day called Shogun. Sick, amazing show. Has absolutely nothing to do with Amazon, but if you like fucking feudal Japan and samurais and shit like that, it is lit.
It's on what, Netflix?
It's on FX and Hulu. It's basically like Game of Thrones, but set in ancient Japan. Pretty dope.
Wow. Cool. Yeah, my fiance has been there several times and she does not shut up about it, which I'm like, it's so interesting. I don't know why. She loves Tokyo. I'm not like a huge city guy, but we'll see. We're excited. We're going to be there for a couple weeks, so.
Yeah, I bet it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Have you noticed like a difference in your students, the ones that I guess are above the million mark? Do almost all of them have warehouses, or are they like doing prep centers?
I would say people tend to do prep when they're under $1 million. I don't have like exact statistics to back that up, so I'm just kind of like assuming, but I would say there are few and far between people who are in the program who do over $1 million in sales who don't have their own warehouse. Probably most of them have, and I'm sure there's some outliers who use like a prep center and stuff like that. But there gets a certain point where the amount that you would be paying a prep center is going to be a lot more expensive than if you had a warehouse. And like in the beginning, it's vice versa, right? In the beginning, you are sending in 500 units. And let's say, just for easy math, prep center is charging you $1 a unit. So they're charging you $500. Warehouse is a lot more expensive. But when you're sending in 5, 10, 20,000 units a month, a prep center is a lot more expensive than actually running shit yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I think the only reason I'm even getting away with it, I'm curious how many units I'm doing a month, but is because I know a lot of my stuff I can send right to Amazon. But if I was doing everything to prep, yeah, I bet you I'm getting close to the point. Yeah, I'm at less 1,400 units. Even that isn't too bad. Like I feel if I can keep prep center billing.
Yeah, so you're saying you said 1,400 units you're sending to Amazon?
Sold last 30. It looks like I've sold 1,400 units.
Do you have any idea of what you shipped? Probably a little bit more.
Yeah, shipped. I don't know. Maybe a little bit more. I know next
probably a little bit more. So yeah, so then let's say even at $1 an item, which a good prep center would charge less, but just for easy math, at $1 an item, if you're shipping 2,000 units a month, you would be at $2,000. In your particular case, it makes sense to have a prep center, because if you got a warehouse just to get your foot in the door, you're probably looking at 4,000 or 5,000, and then you have workers and supplies and all of that kind of stuff. But once you scale the business to where you're doing 10,000 units a month, then all of a sudden the numbers just flip completely the other way.
I remember when we met Eric and Sebastian. Well, when I met them for the first time at Miami, our first year, Avery and I were living together in Miami. And I was barely doing, I don't even think I had done like 500,000 a year. And I was like, I need to get a warehouse. And I got a freaking 300 square foot warehouse. And I was in there for one day in like 90-degree heat. And I called the lady and I'm like, hey, shut it down. Like, this is.
You hired a girl from Tinder.
You lasted one day.
Yeah. That was terrible. It was so terrible.
Yeah. So I would say nowadays, especially it's a little off-putting for someone who wants to start wholesale and, they're not a big Amazon seller, or they're just starting out. It's a little off-putting to say you need to have a warehouse, you need to have staff, all of that kind of stuff. It's a big expense. And for those type of people, prep centers are an absolute game changer, because you're kind of parlaying that into your own warehouse. You're able to reach out to suppliers and, for lack of a better term, like you have your own warehouse, you have your own, tens of thousands of feet of space, and you have a warehouse here and you have a warehouse there. So it lets you parlay a lot of the benefits of having a warehouse without actually having to lay out a lot of the loot for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. What percent are you sending directly to Amazon?
Honestly, on my business, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but minimum, I would say 80% of the total units that we sell are shipping directly from a brand owner and a supplier directly to Amazon. So I have 2 warehouses. All of the shit that gets sent and prepped from my warehouses are stuff that I have to take delivery of personally for whatever reasons. The brands won't send it. But like just straight up unit count, 80% of my stuff is, I have a couple of lines that sell very, very high volume, and those get shipped directly from the brand straight to Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's clutch.
And then one other more direct question, Larry, for someone like me that, is like the next step is going to be to get the loans and to find that other amount of suppliers and SKUs. I know a lot of different people start with like there's different ways to find those SKUs. Are you the type of guy that like, and I'm guessing your answer is going to be a mix of both of these, but if you were to try to find, like, I'm a guy that like, I don't want to manage, I'd rather have 10 SKUs that pump me a bunch of profit and volume than trying to manage like 500. If I were to try to go out and get that next $250,000 worth of spend, do you think it's smarter to start with using a software and finding the brands that are and products that are going to be poppers that like really move in volume, and then reach out to suppliers in those categories that might carry those brands? Or do you think it's better to start with the supplier? Like, what do you think is better? Or depends?
So, like you said, it depends. I would definitely say that we are probably 20% suppliers to actually brand owners when you just break the numbers down of how many different suppliers and how many brand directs deal we have. Units wise, it's a little bit different. But I would say in order to find those 10 popping SKUs, the problem is you have to find the fucking 500 shit SKUs first. There's no way of finding those other 10. And then the problem becomes, even those 10 popping SKUs, every single product on Amazon has a lifespan. It can last 3 months, it can last 3 years, but every single product is going to get clipped eventually. And there's no way that you're just going to ride off into the sunset with those 10 SKUs. Those 10 SKUs, in a month, you're going to be down to 9. In 6 months, you'll be down to 7. In 12 months, you'll be down to 2. Then what? So it's all about adding that extra shit. 3-4 years ago, my biggest source of revenue and my biggest popping brand on Amazon was fucking high-end electronics that we were selling for fucking $200, $250 a unit that we were making a decent profit off of. I had that relationship for 5 years. It's gone now. I had to rebuild. And if I stop adding new shit into the mix, well, when that rug gets pulled out from under you, you're done. So you have to always have that new shit coming in.
Yeah.
There is no, I don't want to say there is no such thing as those 10 popping SKUs, because they are, but eventually those 10 popping SKUs are going to 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 until they're gone. And it's just a matter of time. Like every sick product line that I've ever had, I've had some that lasted 3 months. I've had some sick ones that lasted 3-4 years. And like, I'm thinking, I know the brands in my head right now. Eventually something went down with them and they're gone. They're a thing of the past. I can't sell them anymore. They're delisted on Amazon, or Amazon is selling them, or whatever the circumstance is, but everything eventually goes away. And it's kind of like the adage of feeding the beast. You always got to feed the beast. You always got to put food into the beast, because that's what's going to give you those 10 SKUs. And then those 10 SKUs last whatever they last. If you're lucky, they last 12 months. If you're unlucky, they last 1 month, but they're always going to shrink. And literally the whole key to the business, add another 10 and another 10 and another 10 as fast as you can, as often as you can, because your shit is always going to be constricting. And that's the only way to grow. Because anyone out there who has a big business, if you stop adding, literally you start shrinking right away.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. That's the humbling part of being an Amazon seller, is you're always going.
Yeah. If you're not growing, you are shrinking. There is no standing still.
We got a few questions in here. We can bang them out real quick. I also want to talk to you. I got MMA. I'm about to go do my first MMA sparring session.
Well, let me just explain the MMA shit to you real quick, right? Because you're telling me I should bring my gi to Miami and shit. I did about 2 years of judo when I was maybe like 13, 14 years old, and that's it. Aside from that, like, I don't train, I don't fight, I don't do MMA or anything like that. But I am a fan of the sport.
For some reason.
Huh?
I thought you were a black belt. You're not a black belt?
No, I'm not a white belt, bro. I'm nothing. But I will say I am a diehard fan of the sport. I've been watching MMA from 2002, diehard until today. So I'm a diehard fan of the sport. Never trained or anything like that. So, I'm watching from the sidelines, bro.
Yeah.
Guys like you roll
on. Well, we're actually bringing gloves and a mat to Miami for all of the speakers are actually going to be doing fighting. No, just kidding.
What's that move where you grab the sand and I throw it in your eyes? Is that fucking legal?
Beach rules. Taylor's going to ref my match. So
right.
I just know I'm a really good wrestler, and even when I watch these UFC fights, I'm like, I could probably take that guy down.
Bro,
Like,
so I can break, like I can't do the shit myself, so I'm just like a fucking Sunday driver. But I will tell you that for MMA, and people are probably fucking tuning this out because we went from Amazon to MMA, but absolutely 100% the best base for MMA is wrestling.
Yeah, just think about it, because if you wrestle, you get to decide where the fight happens. Like, there's a
100%.
reason why, like, if somebody's like, oh, I do jujitsu, like, nobody's really scared of you. People think, oh, I probably couldn't kill him, but everyone is scared of wrestlers. Like, strikers are scared, Muay Thai guys are scared. Like, every single person's legitimately scared. Because imagine you're going to a cage, you got 1,000 people watching you, and you know for a fact the guy across the cage can take you down. Or in a street fight, if you're in an alley, it doesn't matter how good you are on your feet, whatever. Like, if the guy's going to take you down, that would be the most terrifying feeling ever. Besides maybe
unless you got two guys in the alley, and then you're taking down one, but there's another dude. So that's when maybe like kickboxing, a little bit of striking.
Yeah, I guess that's true too. But okay, there's two guys in the alley, and you know that you can't get taken down. That gives you more confidence than two guys in the alley. You know for a fact that.
Or if you're just a wrestler and not a striker, you're going to take one guy down. But then what the fuck?
Yeah, because you can't take like 3 guys down at once. I saw a video of a guy who got jumped by 3 guys, and he was
So wrestling's not the finishing sport. Wrestling is just a good foundation to prevent attacks. And if you want, you can choose where the fight happens. But I think, Larry, you're right. Like in a street fight position, you probably don't want to take someone to the ground. You probably don't want to go for a double leg.
So like I said, I've never done wrestling before, but I know that they say that wrestlers in general in any endeavor are some of the hardest working people, the most disciplined people. There's a tremendous amount of dedication and discipline and all of that kind of stuff that goes into just regular Roman Greco college wrestling. So I would assume that that's why you're a hustler, and it doesn't directly correlate to your Amazon business. But if you're someone who, has done a lot of wrestling, then you already have that ingrained in you in any endeavor that you have in life, what type of dedication and what type of hard work it takes to accomplish it. Because from my understanding, wrestlers are some of the hardest working, people out there.
Yeah, I know for sure. Like the hardest day of MMA practice is wrestling. Hardest part of jiu-jitsu practice is wrestling. It's just like a demanding sport on your heart. This takes a lot out of you.
What was your childhood like, Larry? Did you have any like key turning moments that like taught you that same level of discipline? Like sports or anything like?
So my childhood I was born and raised in Brooklyn. My parents came here. They were first generation immigrants. They came from Russia. They came from actually Ukraine, but when they came here, it was Russia. They came here right before the 80s. My dad actually came here, and he didn't have any kind of profession or anything like that. He was actually a hustler, gangster. He was in the mob. It's still a little fucking gray area for me. I don't know exactly what he did, honestly, because like we had the kind of like weird relationship with my mom where we never really discussed exactly what my dad did. But the day before my 12th birthday, my dad was shot and killed in the lobby of my building, right outside the door of our apartment. So that was pretty lit. And then at that point in time, from then on, my mom kind of had to put on the pants and be the man of the family because my dad was dead, didn't really leave like a ton of loot or any kind of thing behind. So she had to go to work and play the woman role and the man role for the family and raise a son. And she did all of that through childhood. When I was coming up, I was just interested in fucking video games and smoking pot and chilling with my friends. And like I cut school a lot, and I actually dropped out of high school when I was like 16 years old to pursue fast money and be a fucking stockbroker at the time, because I saw a lot of young kids my age, killing it in that industry. And these are young kids that didn't have an education, but they had nice things and cars and making a lot of money. So that really enticed me. And I dropped out of school, became a stockbroker, did that for the next decade plus, had some good years, had some bad years. But ultimately, like I said earlier, at around the age of 30, I was kind of spinning my wheels. I wasn't passionate about the business. I kind of like burnt myself out of it. And I found myself at 30 years old, 6 figures in debt, without a dollar to my name, not making any loot, with my tail between my legs, moving back in living with my mom as a fucking 30-year-old, like what kind of fucking slap in the face and wake up is that? And, they say you have to like hit rock bottom, or you have to like find something that you really love doing, that you have a passion for in order to do it well. Being a stockbroker just really wasn't it for me. I wasn't like passionate about it. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. It didn't like inspire me to work. I was fucking lazy. I was more interested in fucking girls and video games and pot and whatever. But
just like Avery, that's why you and Avery get along. No,
but then I hit rock bottom, and then it got to the point where I couldn't afford fucking weed anymore, video games anymore, and I was literally
girls coming up your parents' crib.
No, you can't do that, bro. You're a fucking loser, You get the one odd fucking broad every now and then, but in general, no, and maybe when you're young you can, but not when you're fucking 30. But then it was like a rude awakening, and I had no choice but to hustle. But honestly, there is a little bit of luck that goes into the equation, because when I found Amazon, when my boy put me onto it, I absolutely fell in love with the business. And if it was just a job that paid well, but I wasn't really like passionate about it, or I didn't love it, maybe I wouldn't work as hard, or maybe it wouldn't be as successful. Or if it was like a regular 9-to-5 job where, you're getting $20 an hour, no matter how hard you work, maybe that wouldn't inspire me. But the fact that this guy literally, he broke down the concept. He didn't give me like full training, but I remember when I first found out what Amazon FBA is, he was like, here's how it works. Here's the marketplace. Here's what something sells for. Here's the FBA calculator. You put the ASIN in there. We get this product at $5. This is how you figure out how much you're selling it for and what you're left with. Here's the profit. And the earning potential is unlimited. I'll put up the funds, Larry. You go do it. That kind of like ignited a spark and a fire in me of something that I really enjoyed. And like when I went from broke to actually being able to pay off all my debts, get out of my mom's crib, actually, make a good living, there was probably 2 years in my life where my back was just against the wall. Like I was so broke, I couldn't fucking, like I would have to borrow $20 from one of you guys to fucking chill or smoke a doob or fucking, buy Chinese food or for whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of position I was in. But I had the opportunity where the profit potential was unlimited. I didn't have to lay out my own loot, because if I did, I wouldn't have it to do it. But he was like, yo, this is how Amazon works. Profit is unlimited. All you need is me putting up the funds, which he did. God bless him. Thanks to him. But that gave me an opportunity to kind of dictate my own future and put my head down and work.
Do you mind sharing how much money you think you made with him, with that 33% profit share before he screwed you over?
So I made a lot. It was kind of unfair how I was taking money out of the business. Yeah, because like I said,
you're taking profit on like cost of goods sold, right?
Correct. I'm taking right. So when you start an Amazon business, when you start an Amazon business, you're probably not paying yourself, and he probably wasn't paying himself the first 12 months of the business. But I'm knocking on his door and I'm like, yo, we sold fucking 30 grand worth of shit. There's a 4 grand profit. Give me my cut. He had expenses and preppers, and he laid out the loot. So, it was kind of like a different scenario. At the end of the day, I did 100% of the work, and he did nothing besides for put out the loot. So he was still making money. But yeah, like that's the thing. If you have a job, if you have a career, there is a certain cap to how much you can make. There are certain hourly wages. With Amazon, it's literally unlimited earning potential. Now, if you don't have money and you don't have access to money, you might not want to hear unlimited earning potential, because when I was dead broke, if someone told me there's unlimited earning potential, just invest 50 grand, I don't have the 50 grand. When he fucked me, here's a perfect example. When he fucked me over, I paid off all my debt. I made a lot of money. I paid off my debt. I got married. I had a nice wedding. So I was free and clear on that end, but I didn't have a lot of loot saved up. And when he fucked me over and I had to start from scratch, I didn't have a big nest egg, or I didn't have like a lot of capital to start. I had all the products to buy. I had the knowledge. I had the systems in my head, but I didn't have the capital. So I had to partner with one of my friends, who's still my partner till this day. And we had a kind of arrangement where he would put up all the funds. We would split everything 50-50 going forward. And I had no other options but that. That's what I had to do. So we started our current business, which still exists to this day, with 50 grand worth of capital, where my boy came on. he put in the 50 grand. Aside from the 50 grand, more importantly, he was also willing to be a working partner where he was going to work on the business and do whatever. And that was his full-time gig too. But I had the knowledge. He had the 50 grand. We split everything 50-50. The rest is history. Now, looking back at it now, with his $50,000 investment, he made off like an absolute bandit. I wish I had the 50 grand because then I would have kept 100% of the loot instead of having to give half of it away over the last 12, 13 years, whatever it was. I gave a tremendous amount of it away, but you play the cards you were dealt. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have it. I had the knowledge. I would have been able to buy all the products. I knew what shit to buy and how to buy it. Just didn't have the capital. So you have to have the capital, but Amazon is unlimited earning potential. You guys can show someone how to do it. I can show someone how to do it. It's not that complicated. It just takes a lot of work. But yeah, you have to have the capital to actually put the pedal to the floor and make it happen.
Yeah. Super excited to have you at Miami. I know that we're going to change your topic on the website right now. We have that you're going to be talking about running a lean operation. The reason why I put that is because I saw you posted a screenshot years ago where you were like, you can flex your sales, but it doesn't matter if you're not making profit. So you're essentially saying there's a lot of the community that flexes their sales, but they're not really, you kind of knew they're probably not making that much profit. And you were like, I'm at 10 to 15% margin, whatever you said at the time. But you're not going to be talking about that. You will be talking about something. We don't have to figure that out now. We'll talk more about that behind the scenes.
How to get $500,000 in financing.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I mean, you know, everyone talks about like interest rates and shit like that. Honestly, I took the most expensive financing because I, in essence, took a 50 grand forgivable loan and I gave up 50% equity for life. And, you know, I'll be honest, I have a little bit of regret about it because when I fucking look back at it and I calculate how much loot I made or our business has made over the last 11, 12, 13 years, and that I had to give half of that away to someone who laid out 50 grand, it rubs me the wrong way a little bit.
You know what, though, Larry? I bet you're his best fucking friend.
No, and honestly, he's one of my best friends. And if it wasn't for him, there would be no business, right? So ultimately, at the end of the day, if it wasn't for him, there would be no business. But, you know, it is what it is. And that's why I told Taylor the most important thing is figuring out how to get that 250. Doesn't matter how he gets it, because if he actually wasn't talking shit and has the products to buy now, getting that 250 is the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, you'll be at Miami Sellers Conference. You get the after party. That's another reason to get after party tickets. You'll literally get to meet Larry face to face. Also on the yacht, Achape is going to be there too. You can see Achape waving his hand right now. Guys, I got to run MMA. If I don't make it back alive, you guys know what happened. But I'm gonna go spar with my buddy. He's about to be in the UFC maybe, and me and him wrestled in high school. I beat him in middle school. He DQ'd me. I was smart enough to put my hand on my head.
More stories.
And he did a full Nelson on me, and I won the match. But I'm about 10 pounds heavier than him, so I'm just going to go.
All right, guys. And my wife is in the other room. She's obviously not going to Miami with me. So Ixnay on the strippers, eh?
Hey, 2 o'clock a.m. Sunday night. We'll see what happens. See you guys next week.
It's going to be great, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, MiamiSellersConference.com, guys. Go buy your tickets.
Yep. Peace.
Boom. That's a